On my 26th birthday, Ryan went missing, and I stayed awake for 3 days looking for him. On the 4th day, he finally came home, but he seemed to want to brush it off lightly. Sorry, there were some problems with our overseas business. I left in such a hurry that I forgot to tell you. It seemed that Ryan had forgotten that his WeChat was still logged in on the tablet at home. In the latest chat record, his brother asked, "Brother, you went on a trip with Mia without reporting it. Won't sister-in-law be angry when she finds out?" And he replied firmly, "How could that be? Everyone in the world might leave me except Sophia. After all, without me, she would really die." It was the 3rd day since Ryan went missing. I sat at home all night long. When it was just getting light, there was a rustling sound suddenly coming from the entrance hall. I quickly got up, and my eyes, which had cried until they were dry, looked over. The man who I had been thinking about for 3 days and nights without sleeping was changing his shoes at the entrance hall. Muscle memory made me subconsciously want to go up to him, take off his coat for him as usual, and ask him softly if he had eaten and slept well. The content I had just seen on the tablet came to my mind. And my steps suddenly stopped. "Sophia, what are you standing there in a daze for?" While I was in a daze, Ryan had already walked up to me. He reached out and rubbed my head, explaining gently, "I'm sorry for making you worry. There were some problems with the company's overseas projects. I left in such a hurry, and the situation there was very tricky, so I didn't have time to contact you." Really? There was an unbearable sourness in my throat. I opened my mouth, but for a moment, I couldn't say a word. If what he said was true, then why did I see such completely different words on the tablet? It was the 2nd day since Ryan went missing. Having lost contact for more than 48 hours, I went to the police station to report it. At the moment when I stepped out of the Public Security Bureau, the young lady beside me who was comforting me casually said, "Family members, don't panic for now. Try to recall the places he said he wanted to go before, and check various social apps to see if he has posted some strange updates recently." At that instant, I suddenly thought of my tablet. I rushed home in a hurry, and sure enough, I saw that Ryan's WeChat was still logged in on the tablet. The latest chat record was from 2 days ago. The person he was chatting with was his good brother Max. And that was how I saw that cold and heart-piercing chat record. "Brother, you went on a trip to the UK with Mia without reporting it. Won't sister-in-law be angry when she finds out? Going on a trip to the UK with Mia?" My heart sank, and I stared fixedly at the screen. Then I saw Max, who usually kept calling me wife, beside me, reply indifferently. How could that be? "Brother, let me tell you, anyone in the world might leave, except Sophia. I protected her for 3 years back then. After that, hasn't she always regarded me as her savior? I guess if we broke up, she would definitely kneel down and beg me to get back together." Max finally sent a thumbs up emoji and praised, "Brother, you're really smart." I couldn't describe how I felt after reading the whole chat record. But I had already searched for Mia's name in my mind. I opened her moments with my own mobile phone. I found that it showed a single line. She had blocked me, but when I checked it with Max's WeChat, there were all kinds of things. There were photos of her in a swimsuit by the seaside, workout videos in the gym, and countless emo captions of feigned sadness. Her latest update was posted an hour ago. At this moment, I'm at the Heathrow T2 boarding gate, watching the person I love deeply leave. This 2-day Special Forces-like trip was like a dream. Thank you for your company. I love you and will always love you. The attached picture was a back view. Under the setting sun at dusk, a man walked into the boarding gate in a dusty state. After countless nights of loving and being affectionate with each other, I recognized the owner of that back view in an instant. It was Ryan, my lover for 8 years. So that's how it was. I blinked my dry eyes that hadn't slept for many days and looked up at the dim ceiling, only feeling that I was so ridiculous for having searched every street and alley in the past 2 days. Just like a clown. I had been looking for him like crazy in the country. I even went to the homes of his parents who didn't get along well with him and was severely humiliated and driven out. But he was with my younger sister. They went to Cambridge, York, and Edinburgh and took countless photos of their lives. But they completely forgot. I was his girlfriend. Was there really something wrong with the company? I suddenly raised my head and stared intently at his expression, hoping to find some flaws in it. But there were none. Nothing at all. Ryan just stopped his hand that was about to hug me. He paused for a moment and asked with an unfriendly look on his face, "What do you mean?" Realizing that his tone wasn't good, he then hugged me into his arms, buried his head in my neck, and awkwardly changed the topic. "Baby, I'm so tired. Let's go and have a rest first, okay? We can talk about other things later." I was dragged into the room by him. There was a big difference in strength between men and women. I suddenly fell onto the soft big bed. My hands were held by him and raised high above my head. Ryan's kisses fell densely, from my eyes to my mouth, and then to my collarbone. After a while, he raised his head. His eyes were bright like a puppy's, and he said in a coquettish way, "Baby, I missed you so much these 2 days." I immediately understood what he wanted to do. A feeling of indescribable nausea rose in my heart. What? Wasn't Mia able to satisfy him? But I'm also very tired, Ryan. Have you forgotten that I looked for you for 3 days? Ryan suddenly stopped his actions. He looked down at me for a long time. I also looked at him calmly. Hug. Ryan was the first to give in. He lay back in his own position, buried his whole body under the quilt, and said gloomily, "All right, Ryan, who loves Sophia the most in the world, will never force Sophia." Then he changed the topic. He poked his head out of the quilt, smiling with his eyes narrowed, "But the puppy has been busy for 3 days and needs a loving hug to recharge. Is that okay?" I lowered my eyes and didn't look at him, casually saying perfunctorily, "You're tired. Go to sleep first. I'm going to take a shower." In the bathroom, looking at my disheveled self in the mirror. My eyes were bloodshot. My lips were pale and colorless. My hair, which hadn't been taken care of for 3 days, was like a mess of a chicken coop. I lost all my strength and slumped to the ground. Scenes in Mia's moments of various intimate photos flashed through my mind like frames. Finally, I couldn't hold back and cried my heart out. After tidying everything up, it was already 8 o'clock. Ryan was sleeping soundly. But as soon as I lay down on the bed, he clung to me like an octopus. His hands hugged me tightly, as if he was afraid that I would run away. What on earth was Ryan thinking? I suddenly felt confused. When I woke up, it was already afternoon. The bed beside me was empty. Only the wrinkled sheets proved that someone had slept there. I walked out of the room and picked up the note with elegant handwriting on the dining table. "Baby, I went to the company first. I heated millet porridge for you in the electric cooker. Remember to eat it. It's signed by your dearest baby." Halfway through eating the millet porridge, I still couldn't figure out what Ryan meant. I met Ryan in our first year of high school. At that time, I had just been taken back to the Sophia family's home and just found out that I was Mia's older sister who had been lost when she was young. The Sophia family didn't treat me badly. My father sent me to a private school, and my mother prepared all daily necessities for me, but I had been taken care of by my grandma since I was a child and grew up in the countryside. My daily life was feeding chickens and pigs. I didn't know how to get along with these rich kids who always talked about big brands. I spoke English with a clumsy and non-standard accent. Without the guidance of an etiquette teacher, I always walked carefully. Naturally, I was isolated. Mia always joked with her friends with a smile, "Don't call me princess anymore in the future." My sister was brought back after being lost for 15 years. She's the real princess who lived among the common people. Hearing these words, her friends would burst out laughing in unison. "Are you kidding? She looks so petty. How can she be a princess?" "Mia, you two are biological sisters, but your personalities are completely different. I even doubt if you have a blood relationship." "Yeah, she's really not likable." At first, no one said such things. After all, the Sophia family was one of the top families in the city. But it seemed that rich kids were born with the ability to read people's expressions. At first, my parents still had some pity for me who had been lost for many years. But soon they found that I was completely different from Mia and that I had an unlikable personality, so they became less affectionate towards me. Mia was quite enthusiastic, but there was never a smile in her eyes. When the first person pointed at me and laughed at me, gradually more people joined in. That day, I thought I would be humiliated for a long time again. Ryan appeared like a god. "We're all classmates. There's no need for this, right? Everyone has different personalities. Why are you forcing this little girl to do something?" He protected me behind him. I raised my head and looked at him carefully. The young man was against the light, and I could only see his side face with a cold expression. My heart was pounding. And that's how I found a fact that I had to admit. I fell in love with Ryan at first sight. After that day, Ryan and I gradually became familiar with each other. He gave me a nickname, Little Quail. When he had no expression on his face, he looked unapproachable, but in front of me, he was always smiling. Day after day, he was always joking around me, "Little Quail, don't be timid. When others say something about you, just fight back fiercely. Give me a smile, okay? I've become your knight. Aren't you willing to treat me to a meal?" Until the day we graduated from high school. All the classmates in the class were drunk and unconscious. One by one, they were taken home by their parents. When my mother came, she didn't notice me at all and only took Mia home. In the end, only Ryan and I were left in the whole box. In the silence, I pushed him gently and asked softly, "Ryan, where are your parents?" He naturally leaned on my shoulder and said vaguely, "They're all busy. I seldom see them." It was the first time I had close contact with a boy. I was so stiff all over. Ryan, however, clung closer, and his furry head unconsciously rubbed against my neck. It seemed that he was murmuring something. I leaned closer and heard him say, "I like you, Sophia." The young man's voice was clear and pleasant. I looked up in surprise, and then I met the young man's smiling eyes. So he wasn't drunk. But what could I do? I had already fallen in love. Countless fragments flashed through my mind. Finally, it stopped at the night of graduation. The look of the young man who was so excited that he burst into tears after hearing the words, "I like you too." The millet porridge in the bowl had already gone cold. Something warm slid across my eyes. I subconsciously reached out my hand and touched my chin where the tears were about to fall, only to touch the cold tears. Oh, so I was crying. I knew that I should have made it clear with Ryan yesterday. In real life, if a strong female lead encountered such serious concealment and deception, it should be a plot where she slapped the scumbag hard and told him to get lost, then broke up with him and focused on her career and lived a beautiful life alone. But I really couldn't let it go. Ryan was so nice in the past. I couldn't bear to part with him. I drank up the cold porridge in one gulp. I secretly made a decision in my heart. I'll give him one more chance. After all, it was 8 years of love. I'll be good to you for the rest of my life, Sophia. It started with the solemn promise of the young man. Even if we were to part, it should end in a decent way. I rushed to Ryan's company without stopping, but at the door of the office, I was stopped by Xiao Chen. Sophia, President Ryan has gone out to discuss business. Please come back later. I frowned. Then I heard a girl's charming scream coming from the office. Xiao Chen's face instantly became embarrassed. I pushed the door open and entered. I saw Mia with delicate makeup. She had a big smile on her face, was clinging to Ryan's back, and her hands were around his neck. I didn't know what funny thing she had said. I saw the gentle smile that Ryan showed involuntarily. But the atmosphere was quickly broken. Hearing the noise, Ryan subconsciously broke free from Mia's embrace. He staggered 2 steps and quickly came up to me, saying anxiously, "Sophia, why are you here?" "I can explain. Listen to me." I subconsciously took half a step back. I found that I couldn't understand him anymore. It was him who heated porridge for me in the morning. It was him who hugged me subconsciously when sleeping. But now, it was also him who had close contact with my younger sister, my girlfriend, in the office. "Can you tell me now?" I tried hard to maintain my calmness, but I still couldn't control the trembling of my voice. "What's going on now, including what you did during the 3 days when you went missing?" Before I finished speaking, Mia pretended to be surprised and covered her mouth. "Didn't sister know that Ryan accompanied me to the UK during those 3 days?" "Mia!" Ryan shouted sternly. Mia stamped her foot. Under Ryan's warning gaze, she left the office reluctantly. "Sophia, it's not what you think." Seeing that only the 2 of us were left in the office, Ryan rubbed his temples and said wearily, "I didn't go to the UK with Mia alone. Her birthday was coming up and she was worried because she had just joined her family's company and was afraid of not doing well, so she invited me and 2 of her friends to go to the UK together. Besides, isn't Mia your younger sister? Even if I had something with someone else, it couldn't be with her, right? Were you so obsessed with looking for me during those 3 days that you didn't get enough rest?" I remained silent all along. Seeing this, he got angry instantly and sat back on the chair impatiently. "What else do you want me to explain? There's nothing between her and me. Yes, I know you were very worried when you didn't hear from me for 3 days. But I'm back now, right? I just didn't know how to tell you for a moment." "Didn't know how to tell me?" I gave a faint smile. He clearly knew that I didn't get along well with Mia. He clearly knew that after my grandma passed away, he was the only person who understood me. Had he forgotten that Mia and I were biological sisters? The day of her birthday was also my birthday. "I don't understand how you can say this so righteously." There was nothing but disappointment in my eyes. On my birthday, I went to the cake shop early in the morning to make a double-layer cake for us. In the afternoon, I went home with the cake only to find that there was no one at home. I thought something had happened to you, so I went crazy looking for you. As a result, you were just accompanying my younger sister to the UK to celebrate her birthday. What about me? My eyes were filled with tears. I wiped them away and stared at him, asking in confusion, "What am I to you?" I really couldn't understand. He had been with me for a whole 8 years. He actually forgot that it was also my birthday that day. Seeing my tears rolling down, Ryan panicked. He hurriedly took out a tissue and came up to me, wanting to wipe my tears. "No? I'm sorry, Sophia. I've been too busy with work and didn't remember." I turned my head to avoid him. Suddenly, I felt a sense of relief in my heart. On my way here, I had made 1,000 assumptions in my mind. Subconsciously, I wanted to forgive Ryan. We were so nice in the past. In college, just because I said I liked something, he would run all over the city just to find an untimely magnolia bud. At work, when his parents learned that we were in love, they forced him to break up with me harshly. But he resolutely refused his parents and lived with me, and we decorated our warm little home together. But reason made me believe the truth that I saw. The photos couldn't be fake. The chat records between him and Max couldn't be fake either. The fact that he lost contact, ignored me, and went to accompany Mia for her birthday was also true. It was just like a balance. Before I came here, the side of forgiving him weighed heavier on the balance. But after seeing those things, reason prevailed. Finally, I composed myself, looked up at Ryan and said word by word, "Let's break up." "What?" Ryan couldn't believe it and subconsciously raised his voice. "You want to break up with me? Are you kidding?" I remained resolute and repeated, "Break up." He took a deep breath and gave me a cold smile. "Who else could you be with if you leave me? Don't forget that your grandma has passed away. No one in the Sophia family welcomes you, and you don't even have a bosom friend." My hand beside my bag unconsciously clenched. Suddenly, I remembered a sentence I saw online. "The people who are closest to you and know you best are the ones who are clearest about your scars and your pain." How could a person suddenly turn so bad? Just because I proposed to break up, was he going to expose my bloody scars? I just felt that the person in front of me was so strange. Without saying a word, I turned around and left his company. After arriving home, I quickly contacted a moving company and started packing my things alone. The couple's water cups and couple's slippers, I took only what belonged to me. It was only after I finished packing that I realized that all my things only filled 2 suitcases. Ryan was leaning against the door frame all the time. Seeing that I was about to leave with the suitcases, he extinguished his cigarette with a cold smile. "Are you leaving just like that?" He turned his head away and didn't look at me, speaking in a very stiff tone. "If you want to leave, then leave thoroughly. There's still your painting hanging on the wall. You didn't leave it here because you wanted me to think of you all the time and then soften my heart and beg for peace, did you? Sophia, I can allow you to make a fuss this time. Put your luggage back, and I can pretend that you didn't say those words." I took a deep breath and went back to the bedroom. Ryan followed closely behind me, chattering nonstop. "That's good. There's no need to make a big deal out of such a trifle." His voice stopped abruptly. Because I had already picked up the painting framed on the wall. It was a colorful oil painting. During my internship in my junior year of college, I had been under a lot of pressure. Ryan was sharp enough to notice something was wrong and took me to see a doctor. My condition did improve a little, but only a little. He was so worried that he got several blisters around his mouth. Finally, he took my advice from Max and took me to Inner Mongolia. Under the endless prairie, he held my hand and we ran freely. On the overlapping mountains were layers of colorful clouds, so beautiful that it was beyond words. Those were the happiest 3 days for me. After returning home, I hurriedly painted the scenes in my mind on paper and treasured it. At that time, he hugged me tightly from behind, and his tone was full of attachment. "Baby, you painted so well. If you became a painter, you would be really outstanding." Yes, a painter. Since I was brought up by my grandma when I was young, I had always loved painting. I used stones and charcoal to draw in the village. After returning to the Sophia family, I bought paints to paint. However, the gift for Mia's graduation ceremony somehow got stained with paint. My father punished me without asking for reasons. My mother also thought that my painting was just a waste of time and that I wouldn't achieve anything, so she ordered the servants to throw away all my paints. It was Ryan who had always been with me and praised me. Unfortunately, now he stood behind me, looking at the painting and sneered. "Actually, I never told you that your painting is really bad. The colors are too bright, and the figures you painted are wrong. You were so swollen during that time. How could you be as thin as this?" My body trembled. I knew that maybe Ryan didn't mean to hurt me. People always tend to say some harsh words when they are being stubborn. But I had really made up my mind. And I really didn't want to love him anymore. I left carrying the suitcases. Ryan shouted hysterically behind me, "If you have the guts, then leave and never come back." I just paused for a moment. I answered silently in my heart, "I will." Then I left resolutely. I didn't waste any time and bought a plane ticket early. I took a plane, then transferred to a high-speed train, and then transferred to a regular train. I returned to this coastal town. I grew up here since I was a child, so I could be considered a local. Grandma was put in a small urn and buried here. From now on, I would stay here to accompany her. When I was with Ryan, I often took painting commissions online. That I kept this job and found another easy one. For half a month, there was no news about Ryan at all. I was healing my wounds alone. But one night, I unexpectedly received a phone call. It was from Max. He sounded very anxious on the phone. "Sister-in-law, come quickly. Ryan got into a fight with someone for no reason." I was stunned for a moment before realizing that Ryan didn't seem to have made our breakup public. So I said to him seriously, "If something happens, you can call the police and ask Ryan's parents to bail him out. After all, he's the only child in the family. They won't just watch him go to jail for picking quarrels and provoking troubles. I broke up with him half a month ago, and we won't have any contact in the future. Oh, by the way, don't call me sister-in-law anymore. You watched Max accompany Mia on a trip and hid it from me, yet you still had the nerve to call me sister-in-law. I'm sorry, but I can't understand the way people like you think. You're so two-faced." Don't call me again in the future. I hung up the phone resolutely. I sat up in a daze and suddenly couldn't fall asleep. Subconsciously, I opened Mia's moments. I found that she had unblocked me. Her moments that were visible for 30 days were really wonderful. I scrolled through them one by one. There were photos of Ryan working seriously. There were photos of them having dinner in an elegant atmosphere, and there were also photos of them watching the sunrise together. I twitched the corners of my mouth. Look, he had his beloved by his side. Ryan didn't need me to take care of him at all. As the young master of the Ryan family, without the friendship from high school, how could I be worthy of him? I didn't fall asleep until early in the morning. When I woke up, I was going to go downstairs to buy groceries. But I found someone squatting at the door who shouldn't be there. My wrist was suddenly grasped tightly. Ryan looked at me through gritted teeth. Sophia, did you already know? Otherwise, how could you know the chat records between me and Max? After thinking for a moment, he came to a conclusion. It was the tablet, right? Before I left, my WeChat was still logged in. Since you already knew, why didn't you make it clear? You just wanted to break up, right? Fortunately, I guess that Max's phone call was faked out. I didn't expect Ryan to show up here. Looking at his tired appearance, he probably rushed here overnight. After a brief moment of being stunned, I regained my senses and looked at him with a calm voice. The key point of this matter isn't these things, but that you kept it from me. After saying that, I was about to close the door. But a huge force came from in front of me. The man's eyes were red and he rushed into the small rented apartment recklessly. Baby, do you think I didn't try hard enough before? Shall we do it again? He picked me up and threw me hard onto the bed. Seeing that he was about to press on me regardless of everything, the calmness that I had been forcing myself to maintain finally shattered. My legs kicked at him like crazy, and I threw whatever I could get my hands on at him. I screamed in a shrill voice, "Get out! Get out now! I hate you! Believe it or not, I'll call the police. Forcing someone is illegal. We've already broken up." When I was in an agitated mood, my adrenaline surged. I subconsciously threw a couple's glass cup at him. Bang! Blood came out from Ryan's head. He finally couldn't hold on and fell backward, passing out. I didn't expect that I would hit him so hard. I called 120. After hesitating for a while in my heart, I still informed Ryan's parents. What I didn't expect was that the first one to come wasn't Ryan's parents. It was my father. He came in an aggressive manner and slapped me without asking for reasons, scolding, "What on earth do you want to do? The cooperation between our family and the Ryan family is at a critical moment, and you just had to interfere. Didn't I tell you before that the Ryan family liked your sister more? But you insisted on renting a house outside with Ryan." He scolded so harshly. My father took a deep breath and then continued, "All right, you can't do anything right. I'll choose a marriage partner for you another day. Let Mia marry into the Ryan family, and we'll just pretend that none of this happened." "Why?" I shouted subconsciously, "I don't want to marry a stranger. How long have you raised me? You didn't really welcome me home at all. Why do you have the right to control me?" I just couldn't accept it. In the first year after I returned to the Sophia family, when I proposed to go and offer incense to Grandma, the 3 members of the Sophia family all showed the same look of disgust on their faces. "She's already dead. What's the point of worshipping her? To show our gratitude, didn't we build the best tomb for her? Don't be so fussy." Mia also said with a smile, "She's not your real grandma. You feel sorry for her. Why don't you feel sorry for Mom and Dad?" Hearing that, my parents kept praising her for being sensible. And they looked at me with more dissatisfaction in their eyes. Since that day, my relationship with my parents had become colder and colder. I hadn't even gone home once after college. So I couldn't understand why my father thought he had the right to control me. It's true that we were relatives with blood ties. But I didn't want to recognize them anymore. "Just because I'm your father." His tone was firm, and he pointed at me and scolded angrily, "With your petty look, how could the Ryan family take a liking to you? The person I choose for you will definitely be the most suitable one for you." I wanted to refute again, but then I blacked out and passed out. 9 When I woke up again, the night outside the window was getting darker. A group of people were waiting in the ward. I sat up straight and saw Ryan come up to me with red eyes, holding my hand and kissing it. "Sophia, do you know? You're pregnant with my child. Fortunately, you stopped me this morning. I've already proposed marriage to your parents. Let's live a good life from now on." I couldn't hear clearly what he swore solemnly after that. Subconsciously, I looked at my still flat abdomen. How could I be pregnant? Before I could figure it out, Ryan's mother spoke. Her face, which was usually cold, was unusually soft. "Good girl, the baby in your belly is my first grandchild. Take good care of yourself. The doctor just said that your emotions have been fluctuating a lot and you need to take measures to protect the fetus." I looked around. There were my parents, Ryan's parents, and Ryan, the man I had loved for 8 years, in front of me. Already? My eyes fell on my abdomen. A child whose gender was unknown. I just felt so confused. I made an excuse that I wanted to rest. The ward became quiet again. I also sent Ryan away. I was so confused. Was it okay like this? Maybe Ryan would really change. When I came to my senses again, I suddenly realized how absurd my thought was. Subconsciously, I wanted to get out of bed and take a walk. Then I received a message from Mia. Let's go out and talk? I was stunned for a moment and then agreed. In the quiet coffee shop, Mia sat across from me, slowly stirring her coffee. Sister, do you think Ryan really loves you? He just saved you once, and you took him as your savior? Ryan and I grew up together since we were young. We know each other best. I can tell that he doesn't love you at all. He's just driven by the novelty of you. Afraid that I wouldn't believe her, Mia took a sip of coffee and said very naturally, do you have any advantages? I have the same family background and appearance as you, don't you know yet? She looked at me, and a malicious smile suddenly appeared on her sweet face. Do you know why you suddenly got lost back then? It was Ryan's fault. That day I wanted an ice cream and you also shouted that you wanted one. Ryan was afraid that it would be dangerous for me to cross the road, so he asked the nanny to take care of me at the original place and only took you to buy it. Who knew that there would really be an accident? He just didn't pay attention for a moment and you got lost. My face turned pale instantly. Mia still didn't think it was enough. She looked at my expression and said word by word, so do you understand why Ryan helped you out that day? It was just out of guilt. He was with you just because of the novelty. Are you so cheap that you want to cling to him desperately? Yesterday he and I were already preparing to get engaged. If you have any self-awareness, please back off. After saying that, she picked up her bag and left lightly. When night fell, I still sat there like a statue without moving. It wasn't until the waiter apologized and told me that they were about to close that I suddenly woke up. I paid the bill and left. 10. I took a taxi to go home. The moment I opened the door, a figure rushed up and hugged me tightly. The man choked with sobs. Sophia, I thought you didn't want me anymore. I had received too many shocks in one day. My mind was in a mess, and I just said perfunctorily, you go back first. I want to rest. Ryan was reluctant, but I still pushed him away. I lay on the bed and remained silent for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and made an appointment for an abortion operation. It was scheduled for 3 days later. Ryan had been watching me closely these 2 days. Even my mother came. She held my hand and told me, let's hold the wedding before your pregnancy shows. It's set for half a month later. Looking at the attentive Ryan beside me, she smiled and praised, you're so lucky. Ryan has decided to take care of all the wedding arrangements himself. I forced a smile and couldn't really smile. Why must I get married just because I'm pregnant? Why did they all assume that I would agree? But I really didn't love Ryan anymore. Finally, it was the day of the operation. I pulled Ryan early in the morning and asked him to find a toasting dress similar to the one in the picture on my phone for me. Ryan's focus was different. His eyes were bright. Baby, you're finally willing to talk to me. Don't worry. I'll definitely make you the happiest bride. I couldn't smile. I looked at his eyebrows, eyes, and thin lips deeply again. I just couldn't figure it out. How could he pretend so well? I never knew the truth about how I got lost back then. I thought I had accidentally been lost for so many years. But now, Mia suddenly told me that it wasn't the case. I could have grown up safely in the Sophia family. Perhaps, if I had grown up in the Sophia family, my personality wouldn't be so cautious. Perhaps, I could also have tasted the fatherly and motherly love that I had never had. My pillowmate. He had kept all these things from me and been with me for 8 whole years. I had never found out. His acting skills were really good. I remembered during our relationship. We were laughing and playing around. Sometimes when I was cooking in the kitchen, Ryan would suddenly come over and act naughty. I was so angry that I pinched his waist hard. Then I saw him covering his waist and shouting exaggeratedly, ouch, it hurts so much. Wife, it hurts so much. I thought he was really hurt at that time. When I got close, I was hugged and kissed by him, and then I realized that he was just pretending. Don't just say it without proof. Go and find it for me. If there's even the slightest difference, I won't marry you. I pretended to be angry. Ryan smiled and rubbed my head, then went to prepare excitedly. Before going out, I touched my belly for the last time. I took a taxi to a private hospital. After signing the operation consent form, I entered the operating room. The bright white lights were on. My mind was in a daze, and I just felt that something seemed to have quietly left my body. In my dream, it seemed that a cute childish voice said to me, Mom, goodbye. I supported my waist and walked out. There was no one waiting outside the operating room. When I walked to the entrance of the hospital, the effect of the anesthetic just wore off, the cold wind blew, and my body felt piercingly cold. I was sweating from the pain on my forehead. But I still endured the discomfort and called my parents. I want to see you too, just the 2 of you. 11 probably because they were worried about my pregnancy. My parents came quickly. It was still that coffee shop. Only the person who had to endure the storm had changed. What? Mother was so shocked that she stood up straight, completely ignoring her dignity as a noblewoman, and pointed at me in disbelief, asking, "What did you say? Say it again." I said. I looked calm, raised my eyes to meet their gazes. "I've already had an abortion, so the wedding with the Ryan family can be cancelled." Dad slapped the table. "Nonsense." He was so angry that his chest heaved, as if he was going to have a heart attack in the next second. Of course, he wouldn't feel sorry for me for the harm my body suffered from the operation. As a shrewd and self-interested businessman like him, he was just feeling sorry for the unborn child. If the child had been born safely, the Ryan family would have given him more profits. The wealth that the entire Sophia family could obtain would definitely be far more than it is now. Seeing his intense emotions, I was once again glad about my decision. Glad that I had aborted the child. I didn't dare to think about how my grandfather would have used the child if he or she had been born. The first half of my life had already been ruined. I didn't want the same for the child. When father gradually calmed down, I said slowly, "The wedding can go on as well. You still want to marry Ryan? How dare you after having the baby aborted?" Father cursed loudly. I lowered my eyes, and my voice was coaxing, "Isn't there still Mia? She and Ryan grew up together as childhood sweethearts. Isn't that very suitable? No matter how it was initially arranged, on the wedding day, you take Mia there, hand her over, exchange rings and have a kiss. Then even if Ryan wants to deny it, he won't be able to." Father hesitated. After a while, he and mother exchanged a glance and made a decision. "Okay." In front of my parents, I made a phone call to Ryan. "The wedding will be held in 9 days. When Grandma raised me, she told me about the local tradition that the bride and groom shouldn't meet again before the wedding. I want to follow this custom. Ryan, since you love me so much, you will surely follow Grandma's words like I do, right?" Ryan hesitated for a moment and then readily agreed. "Of course, I definitely will." 12 My parents were in a hurry to go back and inform Mia. They left without even saying a word to me. In the past, I probably would have felt sad secretly in my heart or complained to Ryan. But now, I didn't think about anything anymore. I signed up for a recent tour group. I simply packed 2 pieces of luggage and then embarked on a journey to Lhasa. Although I took the train to Tibet, I still couldn't fully adapt to the altitude sickness. The girl in the same carriage was so shocked that she took pictures of the expanded potato chips. I just felt that all the discomforts after the abortion came flooding back. The eldest sister from Northeast China in the group was a very warm-hearted person. When she noticed that I was unwell, she kept asking me how I was feeling. How ridiculous. My parents had never loved me. A stranger was running around for me instead. All the discomfort stopped abruptly the moment I saw the snow-capped mountains. There were thick clouds under the blue sky. Below that were the snow-capped mountains. The beauty couldn't be captured even 1/10 by my mobile phone. Subconsciously, I took out the drawing board from my bag. But halfway through, I hesitated again. I suddenly realized that Ryan's words had hit me hard. "Actually, I never told you that your painting is really bad. The colors are too bright, and the figures you painted are wrong. You were so swollen during that time. How could you be as thin as this?" The hand holding the pen started to tremble constantly. My mind was full of how Ryan looked when he said those words. The teasing in his eyes and the disgust in his tone. It seemed that I was really, really bad. Just when I was about to fall into self-torment again, the eldest sister from Northeast China beside me leaned over, looked at it carefully, and gave me a thumbs up. "Girl, you're really talented. I can tell which mountain you painted at a glance. Are you a professional painting teacher? That's amazing." I burst into laughter through my tears. Soon we arrived at the station. Everyone in the tour group took group photos one after another. I smiled until my face almost became stiff. My mobile phone vibrated with a buzzing sound. I looked down and found that it was Ryan calling. Looking at the date, I suddenly realized. Today was the day he and Mia were getting married. I hadn't even thought about it all this time. 13 In the end, I didn't answer that call. Because the eldest sister from Northeast China had already dragged me to eat something. During the meal and conversation, I learned that her surname was Liu. She had been worn down by marriage. It took her 20 years to raise a pair of children, only to find out that the children she adopted were born by her husband's deceased first love. Even so, she was still optimistic. She didn't complain about her fate but resolutely divorced, divided the property, and went traveling. The altitude sickness made me vomit even when I took a sip of water. I couldn't eat anything. I wanted to propose a toast but then realized that I couldn't drink at the moment. Finally, I just gave her a thumbs up. "You're the real heroine." If it were me, I might have just pretended not to know and lived an ordinary life. I took a rest for a day and officially set off the next day. We visited Jixiang Xingxue, the Padala Palace, and the Jiakhang Temple. We got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the night sky. We also took Tibetan-style portraits. Throughout the whole process, I was like a puppy tasting meat for the first time, opening the door to a new world. The moment I received Ryan's call again, I suddenly realized that I hadn't thought about him for a long time. Perhaps this was the charm of Lhasa. The first time, I couldn't answer the call because Aunt called me. The second time, I hung up on my own. I have to admit a shameful fact. Before coming to Lhasa, I had other thoughts. I had just had an abortion and was physically weak. I also suffered from altitude sickness. What if I couldn't hold on and passed away? After passing away, would I be able to be with Grandma? Until 2 days ago, I played with the eldest sister for a whole day and was exhausted. I fell into a deep sleep as soon as I touched the bed. In my dream, I saw Grandma after a long time. She was small and hunched over. Almost instantly, I couldn't hold back and rushed up to hug her tightly. Grandma, I miss you so much. Grandma, why didn't you come to my dream even once? Grandma, I chattered for a long time and then let go of Grandma's embrace. Then I heard her say with a bit of disappointment, girl, you didn't listen to Grandma. Grandma told you to take good care of yourself, make a few more friends and live your own life well. Why didn't you listen? I was speechless. Finally, I promised again and again before I passed the test. The moment Grandma's figure disappeared, I suddenly woke up. Looking out of the window, it was already dawn. 14 After hanging up Ryan's call, I opened WeChat and searched. I saw a long message from Mac's sister-in-law. I was wrong before. Please answer my call. Brother Ryan noticed something was wrong. When he lifted the veil, he found that the bride had been changed. He directly smashed the wedding scene. Now the Ryan family and the Sophia family are in chaos. The Ryan family is forcing the Sophia family to bring you out. Your parents are almost dying of worry. After all, they are your biological parents. You have to come out and say something. The last message was a video. I saw Ryan standing beside the host in a suit and tie, with excitement in his eyes. Father took the bride's hand and slowly walked her to the groom's side. During the ring exchange ceremony, the guests in the venue sent warm applause one after another. The groom, who was about to put the ring on the bride's finger, suddenly realized something was wrong. Ryan looked unfriendly and lifted the veil. He found that under the veil was not the person he had been longing for day and night. It was Mia. He widened his eyes. I knew something was wrong. Sophia had a lot of calluses on her hands from doing farm work when she was a child. I looked down at my own hands. There were indeed a lot of calluses. But did Ryan forget? All the calluses on my hands were caused by his thoughtlessness when he was young. The video continued. I saw Ryan turn his eyes to Father. Where's Sophia? Why has the bride become Mia? He asked sternly. There were whispers among the guests in the venue. Then I heard Mia whisper, Brother Ryan, please don't embarrass me in front of so many people, okay? Whatever you do, finish the wedding first. Ryan was unmoved and asked again, where's Sophia? She's the one I'm supposed to marry. She doesn't want you anymore. Mia threw down the bouquet and said in a self-destructive way, don't you know? She already knows the truth about when she was a child. She doesn't love you anymore. Ryan instantly turned pale. He stumbled and ran off the stage, took out his mobile phone, and was about to make a call. I suddenly realized. That's how it matched up. No wonder I received his call that day. It's a pity that no one answered. Ryan finally rushed out of the wedding venue alone. Ryan's parents looked extremely unpleasant. This video was later posted online. Although the Ryan family quickly did public relations, it was still seen by many netizens and there were a lot of discussions. After watching the video, I smiled indifferently. I was about to go out to have dinner with Aunt when I found a haggard figure sitting at the door of my house. It was Ryan. Contrary to his usual behavior, he didn't dare to come up and hug me. There was stubble on his chin that hadn't been taken care of. He looked at me at a loss and stammered, Sophia, listen to my explanation. Believe me, it's not what you think. Listen to my explanation. I felt annoyed for the first time. The scene on the day of high school graduation still lingered in my mind. But I no longer felt sweet. How disgusting. He had hidden so many things from me, yet he redeemed me step by step and became my boyfriend. If I hadn't known, would he have hidden it from me for the rest of my life? How terrifying. I took 2 steps forward. Under Ryan's hopeful gaze, I slapped him hard on both cheeks. You're really, really disgusting. If you're really guilty, please don't bother me again in the future. What about our child? Ryan persisted. I looked at him coldly. Do you think I would keep the child? Impossible. I don't want to have a child related to you at all. Just then, Aunt woke up. She opened the door, was shocked to see Ryan's down and out appearance, and quickly pushed him away to protect me. Girl, is this man harassing you? Sister will protect you. Aunt was 55 years old this year, but she was still full of energy. Somehow, I burst into tears. All the grievances in my heart surged up. Before being found by the Sophia family, I didn't even know that my original family conditions were so good. I thought it was an ordinary family. Maybe my parents had been looking for me for many years but just couldn't find me due to lack of financial resources. They must have loved me, they would definitely protect me. But after seeing my parents, my last dream was shattered. I thought I would never experience maternal love in my life, but perhaps life is always full of ups and downs. I suddenly felt loved now. Seeing me crying, Aunt hurriedly wiped my tears. Sister has already called the police. Don't be afraid. In the afternoon, I embarked on the journey back to Beijing. I never saw Ryan again. 15 I received news from Ryan again a year later. Not long ago, Aunt was betrayed by her biological children. They persuaded Aunt to remarry. She asked me out to drink to relieve her gloom. I cried my eyes out with her. Somehow, we became godmother and goddaughter. Sophia, is there still a chance for us? When I saw this message, I was in Iceland looking forward to the appearance of the aurora. I was stunned for a moment. A sense of malice rose in my heart. So I replied, no, never. I hate you, I hate the Sophia family, I hate everyone. If you want to atone for your sins, why don't you prove it with practical actions? There was no reply from the other side. Baby, look up quickly. Hearing Aunt Lou's call, I subconsciously looked up. A green aurora streaked across the sky, and it was breathtakingly beautiful, so beautiful. I hope my future life will be like this too. Postscript: after returning to China, I inevitably heard news about the Ryan and Sophia families. It was said that the Ryan family was very angry. Ryan's father waved his hand and terminated the cooperation. Other companies, seeing this, also stopped cooperating with the Sophia family. The Sophia family fell into a crisis. They had no choice but to choose an arranged marriage. Coincidentally, the person for the arranged marriage was the one my father had pointed out to me before. He came from a wealthy family, was an only child, but was a bit of a playboy. He didn't care about his family and was irresponsible and loved to play around. Mother reluctantly married off her daughter. But even so, the family's company was still declining day by day. Actually, it could have been stabilized. Who let Ryan take over? Perhaps my few text messages really had an effect. As soon as he took office, he targeted the Sophia family in a way that hurt both sides. Both companies were on a downward trend. Many times, my parents would still send me text messages. Even Mia sent me messages, sister, I'm wrong. Please get back together with Ryan. My husband will really beat me to death. Please, as long as you come back, I'll explain everything to you clearly, okay? Explanation? It's not needed. I silently added them all to the blacklist. Beside me was Aunt Lou's muttering, where shall we go to play this time? Looking up at the sky, the sun was shining brightly. I hope every day in the future will be like this. Ryan's perspective extra story. My name is Ryan. When I was young, I made a big mistake. I lost Sophia, the sister of the Sophia family. That day, I took them to an amusement park to play. Mia was acting like a princess and didn't want to go. She begged the nanny to stay and take care of her. There was nothing I could do, so I had to take Sophia with me. She was very obedient and kept holding on to the corner of my clothes. But just when I was paying, she disappeared in an instant. I searched for a long time that day but couldn't see her. I finally panicked and went back to tell the nanny that we should call the police. However, Sophia was still missing. My parents owed the Sophia family a huge favor because of this. The Sophia family thrived because of this. I really wanted to find Sophia again. Finally, all my efforts paid off. Sophia was found. Her skin wasn't as fair as before, she had grown up, tall and thin. She was always taciturn and wouldn't say a word even when bullied. I was so angry that she didn't stand up for herself. I rushed up to protect her. When those boring people left, I looked back and found that her eyes were so bright and she was so cute. I came here originally intending to apologize. But at that time, another thought suddenly popped up in my heart. I liked her. If she knew that it was because of me that she had suffered so much, she definitely wouldn't like me. So I quietly hid the truth. With my encouragement, she started to smile, took the initiative to talk, and became lively and cheerful. I liked her. I realized that I liked her. So on the day of the graduation ceremony, when I saw that she was ignored by her biological parents, I quietly sent a message to the driver, asking him to pick me up later. I pretended to be drunk and whispered in her ear that I liked her. She blushed. Her eyes were evasive and she didn't dare to look at me. How cute, I thought. We confirmed our relationship. I don't know how to describe my feelings when I heard her say that she liked me too. Anyway, it was like Mars hitting the Earth. I was over the moon. Our relationship had always been very good. She was so lovely, and her eyes were always full of me. In college, my parents forced me to break up with her and choose Mia, who had good family education and refinement. How could that be possible? I resolutely refused, and as a result, my cards were suspended. She took out all her money and told me it didn't matter. She would stay with me. On that day, I secretly swore that I must let her live a good life. And she did live a good life indeed. However, an accident happened. Suddenly, Mia came to me and asked me if Sophia knew what had happened when we were kids. I panicked. I begged her not to tell Sophia. I said that I would tell Sophia when I figured out how to bring it up. But Mia wouldn't let me off the hook. She said, then accompany me to the UK for a few days. And I agreed. I forced a smile and accompanied Mia to take one photo after another. On the day of our return, I walked in a hurry, thinking that I could finally see Sophia. But later I realized that my mind was in such a mess during those days that I had forgotten her birthday. At that time, Max sent me a WeChat message. I didn't dare to tell him about what had happened when we were kids. So I just replied hastily and perfunctorily. I didn't expect that my WeChat was still logged in on the tablet, and Sophia saw everything. I didn't dare to tell her about what had happened when we were kids and just gave her perfunctory answers, which made her more and more disappointed. On the day we broke up, I said some harsh words. I didn't want to break up. I loved her. That day in the office, Mia leaned against me in an intimate gesture. In fact, she was just saying, brother-in-law, if sister knew what had happened when we were kids, would she still be willing to marry you? Sophia witnessed this scene, so she resolutely wanted to leave. I cared too much about my pride and said things against my true feelings to her. I mentioned that painting, hoping that she would recall the bits and pieces of our past, but it seemed to remind her of something bad. She tore up the painting and left. Later, I fainted. When I woke up, I heard that she was found to be pregnant. I was overjoyed. However, the light in Sophia's eyes grew dimmer and dimmer. She sent me away and told me not to see her again. I listened to her. On the wedding day, I found that she had already left long ago. The bride was Mia. When I saw Mia's face, I somehow felt sick. I should have told Sophia earlier. It was my fault that things had come to this. I spent a lot of money to find Sophia's whereabouts and blocked her at the entrance of her hotel. When that eldest sister asked her, I heard her say casually, he's just an insignificant person. Then I knew that we could never go back. I went home silently, took over the company, and launched revenge on Sophia's family step by step. Mother said I was crazy. Yes, I was crazy. Perhaps I had been wrong from the very beginning. Later, Sophia would still send me messages. She had a very good relationship with that eldest sister. They went to various places to travel together. Whenever she got some bumps and bruises, she would take pictures and send them to me. Most of the time, I knew that she was trying to provoke me. But I always fell for it. I always thought that she still cared about me anyway. My revenge on Sophia's family became more and more ruthless. In the end, it involved Mia's husband's family. Mia's husband showed no mercy when he took action. By accident, he pushed her down the stairs, and she became a vegetative state. Everything came to an end. My family's company also went bankrupt. When I opened my mobile phone and checked, I found that Sophia hadn't sent me those pictures for a long time. I asked someone to check and then knew the truth. She had suffered from moderate depression before. Now she had recovered. So that was why she sent me all those pictures of her wounds back then. It turned out that she had wanted to die at that time. Later, when she got better, she didn't care about me anymore. Father advised me to make a comeback. I didn't want to. I wanted to live an ordinary life, just as I had told Sophia before. But on countless lonely nights, when I looked at the sky, I always recalled the past. Ryan, you're so stupid. Do you like me? Do you like me? I like you too. I'll like you for the rest of my life. You're the most important person to me in this world. These memories kept looping in my mind. Finally, it stopped at the night of our graduation. The girl was shy but still forced herself to look up at me and said, Ryan, actually, I like you too. Perhaps, I had been wrong from the very beginning.